Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal Podcast. This is the Bigfoot Only Podcast. On this podcast, we only talk about things that relate to Bigfoot, and sometimes we talk about other cryptids and other things, but we try and focus only on Bigfoot. This podcast usually is 10 to 15 to 20 minutes long. It's usually not very long. I try and keep it shorter so that I'm not blowing you guys up with too much time. Anyways, if you don't know us, because we have a lot of new followers, and we're so thankful for all of you who follow and listen to us and like our videos and share our videos on social media and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much for your support. It's amazing. It's very helpful. It helps us continue to do these podcasts. Now we're at over 100 podcasts, which is awesome. I never thought we'd even get this far, but I'm loving it, and I hope you guys are too. I enjoy coming on here and talking to you guys about everything paranormal, including Bigfoot. So, most people, my wife would just roll her eyes and say, Amanda would just roll her eyes and say, "Yep, that's Matt. He's totally hooked on Bigfoot." So, if you don't know, I was a non-believer. I grew up in the late '70s, early '80s. And we had shows like Unsolved Mysteries and other shows like that talked about Bigfoot every once in a while. So, I just thought it was just something to scare the kids out of the woods at night. And I never really paid too much attention to it. I thought it was interesting, but I never really thought they were real. So I was skeptical. And like I always say, I always tell everyone, I don't care what it is, Bigfoot, UFO, ghost, anything paranormal, or anything else in that for that matter. I tell people you have to have an experience where you can say that couldn't be anything else but, and put whatever in there. For this instance, we'll say Bigfoot. I don't want you to say, "Oh, I know it was Bigfoot because I heard a rustle in the woods," or "I think I heard a scream," or "I think I saw a patch of hair." I mean, that doesn't qualify. You have to have a sighting where you can say, I know that couldn't have been anything else but a Bigfoot. So, this goes for everyone. Skeptics, believers, non-believers, you really have to be careful about what you present as evidence and stuff like that. There's a reason we don't post a lot of videos with Bigfoots. Yes, we've gotten a lot of video of Bigfoots. We've got hours and hours and hours of possible Bigfoot pics. But you can't quite. I'm not going to post pictures of blob squatch. I'm sorry. And if I do, there's going to be a reason for it. And I'll be talking about that, and explaining myself at least. But I try and post anything Bigfoot video related wise. I try and post stuff that is at least believable. And, it's 100% from the heart. I think this might be something. And I'm not saying it's Bigfoot, but I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure. So anyways, speaking of that, there's some new reports here in Texas that I have not seen before. So I want to share that with you. And then also, here, let me share my screen real quick. You guys can now buy us a coffee. If you're on our YouTube page or a Rumble page, you'll be able to see the little bar here that you can scan with your phone. That'll take you directly to, let me go on to our website here. That'll bring you to buymeacoffee.com. Someone earlier bought us about 5 coffees. So thank you guys so much for that. Whoever did that, they remain anonymous. So we can't thank them, but we appreciate it. We're about a quarter of a percentage to our $2,000 goal. We're trying to get to $2,000 so we can actually upgrade and buy a more professional video camera. We're trying to get to the point where we have a person following us around while we're out in the woods, recording us, because it'll give you guys a different perspective, and you'll be able to kind of see more like what we're doing and then what we're reacting to. Hopefully, we'll also have cameras probably in our hands as well. But it'll give you guys a different perspective of what we're seeing, what we're experiencing. So that is the goal, is to get to $2,000. If you want to donate to our channel, you can buy us 1 coffee for $3. You can buy us 10 coffees for $30, whatever you want to do. Each coffee is about $3, which is about the price of a coffee. It just helps us out. So thank you guys again. Thank you to whoever sponsored us earlier. We really appreciate it. Once we get going, we'll be posting and probably on the podcast. If you're listening audibly, we'll be thanking you guys through the podcast, and then also on our YouTube channel, we'll post a thank you to all those people on the video. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you doing that. We do have some stuff coming up here January 21st. I'm just going to briefly go over this because I went over this on the last podcast. But like I said, we have so many new followers, and we're getting so many people coming with us on our journey here, our paranormal journey, that I just have to kind of go over this stuff again. So this is our website, deepwoodsparanormal.com. You can see it up in the left corner. This is what our new website now looks like. You can contact us here if you want. You can get to all of our social media down here. And then you can also watch Deepwoods Productions. This is our production company. I don't want to talk about that too much. It speaks for itself. But we do podcasts. And you're listening to this, so you already know. We've done quite a bit of them. YouTube. If I'll go to YouTube. Why aren't you going to YouTube? There we go. Okay, so here's the YouTube channel. Again, we've got hundreds of videos for you guys to watch. It's not just podcasts. We do paranormal investigations into Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, crypto creatures, everything. And so you can see all these videos here. You just have to kind of scroll down, and you'll be able to see the rest of them. But what I want to talk about real quick is our ghost hunting tour of San Jacinto Jail. This will be on January 21st, 2023 at 8 p.m. It's going to be about 2 hours long. We're going to get to investigate the jail, the old schoolhouse, and the post office, the old post office, and the old train depot. So that should be fun. They all have different entities. They all have different types of activity. And we do get a lot of K2 hits in the schoolhouse and in the train depot. And we've made contact with a lady who used to work in the old post office. And then, of course, the jail. Over 400 people were killed by being hung or whatever. Some inside the jail, some outside. And it's just, this is also in Bigfoot territory. So, I mean, people see possible Bigfoots around this area. And I've talked to the people that maintain this location, and they've said they've seen the same thing. They've seen something strange. So, if you want to go there, that's great. We appreciate it. You can book now. Like I said, it is $20 a person. So if you're interested in going to that, that's in the Cold Springs area down here in Texas. So you can give us a call if you want. My information is here on this site. So everything's here on our website. We're going to be selling merchandise on our website soon again. And then we'll also have some ghost hunting gear that we're going to try and start selling for people to purchase and go from there. So, there's a lot more stuff. Of course, we have more events coming up too. And I already talked about this on the last podcast, but I'll go over it briefly because people ask me, what are you guys doing next year? January, the San Jacinto Jail. February, we're looking at going back to the Normandy Inn. We're still working on with the owner to see what we can and can't do with that location. Probably have to do waivers for people because the house is a little dangerous. There's places you've got to be really careful in. But yeah, it's a crazy old house. Lots of paranormal activity. More than likely, I might end up spending the night before. I'm a little nervous about it because the spirits last time, we're not very happy having us there. So, but I'm hoping that we left with respectfully, and I'm hoping the next time we go back, they'll be more open to us coming back. All right. So this is a site I kind of come to when I'm looking for reports. It's the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. I want to give them a shout out because they do a great job of reports. So this is in the Texas area. I kind of looked these things up. This is a little older. It's 2016. They don't have very many updated reports, but I do want to talk about these because they are in areas where we actually actively investigate. And I find that they do migrate possibly, but I don't think they leave when they do come back, they come back into areas. I think that's okay. Let me start with that again. I believe that they migrate from one location to another. I believe they go to other Bigfoot, let's just call them tribes or groups, and they do their thing, if you will, and then they either leave or they become part of that group or tribe or whatever you want to call them. So I believe that when the younger ones get to the juveniles, they get to adult stage, I believe that they either have to, basically fall into line or they may get kicked out. I mean, I think sometimes that's what happens is that they get kicked out onto their own and get kind of pushed out and they travel to new places to find places to live, essentially. So I think that's what's happening with a lot of these road sightings. I think Bigfoots are migrating from one place to another. Maybe they're following a food source. Maybe they move during the winter and summer. Maybe it's too hot in certain places, so they move from one location down to another or up to another where it's a little cooler, or where maybe there's water sources or whatever. So let's look at this first one. This is from 2016. This is in Walker County, Texas. The nearest location was New Waverly, and this happened at 0500, which is 5 a.m. in the morning. And then the weather conditions were dark and clear skies. So at 5 a.m., it's like dusk out here. So you can see, but it's still dark. You still need headlights and stuff like that. So here's the witness account. At approximately 0500, which is 5 a.m., January 4th, 2016, I was traveling to work on FM 1375 heading east towards I-45, which is towards Louisiana. This is on the east side of Texas. As I was approaching the river bridge, I saw a reflection of eyes from the bridge and thought it was a deer, which I can account to. When you're driving, I do a lot of nighttime driving all throughout Texas. I go to Dallas, I go to Fort Worth, I go to East Texas, I go down to Houston, I go over into the west side, Austin, I go into a lot of places over there. And so, yeah, I have deer cross in front of me all the time at night. It's very dangerous driving out here sometimes at night, especially if they're concentrated in an area. But there's other animals. I mean, we have all sorts of animals out here. We have foxes, we have wolves, we have coyotes, we have dogs and cats that like to run into the road. So yeah, people are out here they're basically they know to look for eye shine because that's the first sign there's something in the road. I need to slow down or I need to avoid whatever it is. Okay. So as I got closer, the eyes were approximately 7 to 8 feet high. That's pretty tall. That's not a deer. Then I noticed the body of this thing. It was huge. I've spent many a year in the woods, and I've never seen anything like this. When I first saw it, I thought it was a person or maybe a bear standing on its hind legs. But its size alone, it was clear it was not a person. Okay, so let's talk about this. We do have bears supposedly still here in Texas. They supposedly they hunted them all to extinction. But people I've talked to around East Texas have seen them. They're not real big. They're like the size of black bears. Some of them are a little bit bigger. But, I've not heard of anybody seeing any of them in the roads ever. I've always heard about them being seen in the forest and stuff like that. So this is basically if you want to come through and read this, I already told you what the site was. So again, I'll just go back over this. This is a North American Wood Ape Conservancy. What I did was I went into the reports over here, and then I basically looked for my area, Texas. If you're in a different area, you can look into other areas too. They have reports from all over the place. So let's take a quick peek at where this happened. So this happened over in this area somewhere. Let me zoom in just a little bit. This is the New Waverly area where this square is. It's a very small area. It's a very small town. You can drive through it in a couple minutes, whichever way you're going. But I guess my guess is, okay, so this is Lake Conroe right here. If you're watching, Lake Conroe is one of the bigger lakes here in Texas. There is a bridge that goes across. Now, on the other side of this bridge, I have seen what look like tree structures. We were going a little too fast, and there was two people behind us, so we couldn't stop at that point. And so I just pinned it on my phone. But on the left side, we saw some kind of strange tree structures, like trees bent over and a possible teepee. And I'm guessing this is where she was. Let's just double check. 1375. Yep. That's exactly where she was. There's a lot of reports of Bigfoot up in this side of the Sam Houston National Forest. Now, if you don't know, the Sam Houston National Forest is these three big chunks of green. So there's this huge part here, and all these blue dots you see are Bigfoot reports. And then you come over here. Some of these yellow ones are also Bigfoot reports. I have so many pens now because of my work and having to know where certain locations are to drop people off, but I have to pen them all because there's just so many places. But I try and use the blue only for Bigfoot reports, and I try and use the yellow for my other stuff. But you can see Sam Houston National Forest, Sam Houston National Forest, Sam Houston National Forest. Unfortunately, I believe they've clear cut a lot of the forest around this area because it's a you got Huntsville and you've got a few other big areas where there's actually big towns. Huntsville is actually a very large city. They're probably about the size. They may be bigger than College and Bryan's combined. College Station and Bryan combined. They call it BCS. Bryan College Station. But anyways, so yeah, this report happened over here on the 1375. That does not surprise me. I would imagine Bigfoot crossing across here, maybe even using in the middle of the night. If it doesn't see a lot of traffic, I would imagine it would have walked up this road and maybe come across here or come back across here. That totally makes sense to me. So let's take a look at this next one. We'll look through a couple different ones, and then I'm going to cruise off here. Let's see. All right. So this says couple has an encounter while hiking in the Palomito State Park. So let me look this up real quick. No, I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go into here so we can see where this is. All right. Hopefully that's still in Texas. Yep, Gonzales, Texas. Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's read the report and we'll come back to this. All right. So again, it says couple has an encounter while hiking in the Palomito State Park. I'm sorry if I butchered that. This happened on June of 2014 in the Gonzales County, Texas. The nearest city is Autun. I believe that's how you pronounce that. It was 1 o'clock or 1300 p.m., which is 1 p.m. Military time. It was humid, hot, and muggy around 1. Rain showers off and on. And it says there was 2 witnesses, and this is quite a long one, so I may just kind of skim through here. All right, so it says, my husband and I decided to go to the Palomito State Park on our way home from New Braunfels to enjoy a nice hike. I go through New Braunfels all the time. It's a nice area. We began our hike at the beginning of the San Marcos River Trail. We were the only ones on that trail that day. At the beginning of our hike, my husband noticed what looked like an extremely large footprint on the left side of the trail. That's cool. We didn't think anything of it and kept on our journey. We came to a spot where you can walk down to the river and swim or fish. We both walked down to the bank of the river to check out the spot. After taking a small break, we started back up the bank. I was in front of him when I heard him holler that somebody had just thrown a large rock at him. Yeah. So I'm laughing because that's happened to me multiple times. I don't know how many rocks have flown over my head. Some of them were very large, kind of scary, bigger than my head, some of them. Anyways, let's see. I thought he was trying to scare me, so I didn't pay much attention. When we got to the top of the bank to the trail, he told me that something had thrown a large baseball-sized rock at him, which hit right behind him in the sand and rolled down the hill. He was visibly upset. We continued on our hike. While on the San Marcos River Trail, we continued to hear noises in the woods and breaking sticks, but contributed to local wildlife. So yeah, that's very common to, have a quick encounter like that. And then, maybe you start on your way out. I mean, I've talked about this multiple times. Black Star Canyon, when I got chased out that one night. If you want to listen to that, you can go back and listen to that. I don't want to get back into all the details of that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes they'll show themselves. Sometimes they'll make noises. Sometimes they'll howl and whoop. They just want you out of their area. They might be hunting, or maybe they're bedding down in that area, or who knows what they're doing. But they just want you to, move on. And sometimes they will follow you for a little while and make noises to try and continue to scare you and move you out. But anyways, okay, so let's get back to this. All right. Then we heard a strange howl. It was similar to that of a cow, but sounded like, but different. Excuse me. Now I know there are cows in this area, which we heard and saw multiple times during the hike. But I know that a cow sounds like, I can't talk today. And my husband grew up and around and currently works in the solder business. So he has heard the sounds of a cow. He basically says he knows what a sound of a cow is. If you've worked in a slaughterhouse, I'm sure you've heard some pretty scary things. I feel bad for the cows. Anyways, let's see. Where were we? Bear with me. I'm trying to find my spot. Okay. What we heard was not a cow. We heard this howl once while on the San Marcos River Trail, and then again when we cut off onto the Mesquite Flats Trail. While in the Mesquite Flats Trail, we continued to be observant of our surroundings, but enjoyed our relaxing hike. Somewhere on the trail, not far past the bridge, but before another, we both heard a loud crack as a falling large limb of a tree right by the end of the first bridge on the trail we had just crossed. So that's another thing. So Bigfoots do knock over trees or drag branches, large branches. Sometimes they'll basically carry over the dead tree trunks and stuff like that across a trail. And I believe that's them saying, "This is my area, stay out." If you've watched any of the stuff from Joe's, we've done 3 documentaries from Joe's. The last one where I was walking through the left side of his property where the forest is. Every single trail was blocked by some kind of obstacle. There was tree branches laid down. There was tree trunks laid down. Vines were pulled across from one plant to another. And I'm like, okay, well, no, this is weird. And of course, I found footprints and stuff like that. You can go watch our YouTube video on that. It's pretty cool. Actually, I was in there. I actually heard a tree knock real close to me, but I don't know I couldn't find it. All right. So let's get back to this. Blah, blah, blah. Bear with me for a second. Okay. Sorry, I forgot the washer was on. Okay. We then heard running through the woods. It was not like a person running, but it was also not like a deer. It was a loud thump sound whenever a loud thump sound when whatever it was hit the ground. And I'm guessing that's a foot hitting the ground. My eyes immediately scanned the tree line and focused in on a tall black something, but I couldn't clearly see uh, the thing past. I couldn't clearly see it. And she said it was passing between trees. It was tall and black, but very fast. It was faster than a person. It was not a deer because I could see its silhouette, and it was not long. It was not a hog because it was tall and long. It was not long and there. I can't talk. It was not a hog because it was tall and not long like an animal. So she's saying was bipedal, standing up on two legs like a person, but not a person. Let's see. I was watching it pass through the trees when it just disappeared, like it stops or something. Now, a lot of people don't know that Bigfoots will, if they think they're being seen, instead of sometimes, well, most of the time they'll just stop and freeze because they literally look like a tree. You can't tell the difference, especially if they're more than about 5 or 10 feet away from you. It's really hard to tell that they're there. Unless you know what you're looking for. And even then, it's hard to pick it out unless you have like a thermal camera or something that you can clearly see, like binoculars, where you can see, okay, that's not a tree. And that's happened a few times too. Again, reference Joe's camp. But they also will go down on all fours like a bear. They will also go down on their tummies. They will just lay flat, and all you see is like this eye shine. Usually it's kind of a reddish tint to them, but if you watch with the infrared cameras, if you can pick them up, you'll see green eyes looking at you. I believe they have bioluminescence in their eyes, either in or around their eyes. Okay, let's see. Blah 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 blah. Let's see. Bear with me again. I'm trying to find where I just was. Okay. She was saying it was not clear, not a hog. Okay, I've already been there. Okay, disappeared. Okay. I was shocked by what I saw. My husband and I walked back to where the tree limb had hit the ground to see if we could find anything. Unfortunately, we did not have binoculars. Again, I was talking about binoculars earlier, but off to the distance where the thing disappeared from my sight, it appeared to be some type of black thing, either crouched or standing completely beside a tree. So and again, you take all this with a grain of salt. These are just my personal experiences. You have to, like I said, you have to have your own experience with these things because they're just amazing. Even if you're a believer or a non-believer or whatever, you really have to have your own encounter where that will change your mind or officially make it real. Because once you've seen one, there's about a 50-50 response. For me, it was like, holy crap, they're real. And I was a little scared, but I was more excited than anything, and I was just hooked. For other people, it's like, oh my God, they exist. Oh, excuse my language. Oh my gosh, they exist. Holy crap. And they're terrified. They won't go back into the woods. They won't go hunting anymore. They'll stay out of an area where they saw one. And I find that really sad because they probably have had encounters with these things multiple times and not even known that it was there. And most of these encounters, about 99.9%, I've never heard of anyone actually getting physically harmed. But there are cases out there, like 0.01%, where people disappear, people die, and stuff like that under strange circumstances. Who knows what that's about? We weren't, you'd have to prove that Bigfoot's real first before you can say that they actually are hurting people or killing people. Okay. All right. So, okay. We decided it was best to make our way out onto the trail and head to the end, but keep a watch on this thing we saw by the nearby trees. The trees got thick and we could not see through them for a moment. But when we finally got another opening, we attempted to find the black thing by the tree we had just seen it, and it was no longer there. So essentially, they were just investigating, which is awesome. I'm glad they were doing this. They wanted to confirm that it was something that they couldn't understand. And I appreciate them taking the time to just double check and make sure it wasn't something other than a Bigfoot. So we continued our walk with a lot of talk about it. Once we crossed into the Atine Swamp Trail, we heard the howl again, but it was closer than before. We completed our hike with no other incidents or noises. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life, which is awesome. All right, so they're talking about the footprints. Let me talk about this. It says hand/footprints. The footprints observed were very large. My husband was a size 9 and was much larger than his with large toes. Most Bigfoot, there's juveniles, of course, out there, and they're smaller. They have, size 10, 12, 13 feet. And then you get to the big boys or girls. Their feet are much larger. I think the females aren't as large as the males. And I believe the dominant male, because I found a 24-inch footprint one time. We found, a man and I and a few other people found like a walking path. And unfortunately, it wasn't in the mud or anything. It was actually, believe it or not, in the brush down below, all the deadfall. But you could see where I walked, and as I walked, it basically had scooped out the deadfall and left these tracks. And we couldn't cast them because it just wouldn't set up. It would have just run it through underneath the leaves. There was no way to show it unless you just saw a picture. So anyways, yeah, I mean, finding footprints is always awesome. I try and always carry plaster casting with me, so I can, if I need to, I can go out there and make a casting or several castings. So, okay, so the sounds. Then we heard a howl. It's similar to a cow, but different. Now, I know there's cows in areas. I already read all this. So the husband again worked in a basically processing meat, and he's been around cows a lot, and he knows the noises the cows make, and this was just kind of off. Bigfoots, from my experience and from what I've been told by other witnesses, they mimic things. Like I've talked about the gentleman, the farmer who lived out in the woods, and he and his wife and his daughter had just gone into town. He was out on the edge of the forest, on the edge of his property, and he heard his name called by his wife, and he looked around and there was nobody there. And it freaked him out. He knew his wife was gone, so he walked back to the house anyways to make sure she wasn't gone. And as he got closer to the house, he heard his name called again, like in his wife's voice. And then he heard a couple other things. I think he heard a scream and a howl or something else. But yeah, I mean, so can they mimic us? Maybe. There's no proof of this. And again, you got to take all this with a grain of salt. But yeah, it is possible that they are able to manipulate vocals and create a voice. Additional observations. There seemed to be a lot of bent high grass where something had bedded down. So again, I talked about them bedding down. Maybe that's an area where it was sleeping. Maybe it was quiet, so it didn't feel threatened. and then all of a sudden they hear somebody walking into its territory, gets up, goes on alert, kind of starts to watch to see, what these people are doing, and gives out a howl to try and maybe scare them away, and continues to follow them to make sure that they're not going to hurt it, in any way, probably. Maybe it's just curious of what they're doing or whatever. And then as they kind of head back up the trail, it goes, okay, they're leaving. I'm good. I'm going to disappear now. So there are also many large areas of sticks, strange sticks, and limb configurations. I've seen these too. I've seen like triangles and other different things, almost like letters, but they're not letters. And sometimes they're spread out over 5 or 6 foot area. Sometimes they're just like a couple of them. Sometimes there's just one. I don't know if that's some kind of communication for them trying to tell us something, or if it's them essentially trying to communicate with other Bigfoots. Maybe it's their way of saying, hey, this is my territory. This is my marked area. I don't know. That's something we're still researching. Okay, so like something had stacked sticks to make a shelter or lay down on the ground off the dirt, which is, more human-like type ideas. When we were at Joe's, we went down to the lake close to his house, and that's where we found those 24-inch footprints. We found 2 structures. We also found that catfish with the head that had the teeth marks like chewed out the side of it. And they look like our teeth, but much, much larger, maybe 3 or 4 times the size of our teeth, into the bone of this catfish. And it was a fresh kill. That catfish stunk. We also found some clam shells that basically where clam had been pulled apart and the meat had been eaten inside of it. So anyways, this is getting a little long. Let me go back to here. All right, guys. So I just want to thank you guys again for all your support. Thanks for buying us coffee if you feel like doing that. The link is below in the description. You can go there, and like I said, if you feel like buying us 1 coffee or 3 coffees or 5 coffees like the other gentleman did, we appreciate that. So any support you can give us, if you just give us a like or a comment, a nice comment, that's always nice. We appreciate that. Doesn't cost you anything. I know people are struggling right now. If you can just share our podcast or tell a friend about us or whatever, so we can continue to grow and move up the chain here and get bigger and bigger, so that we can bring you bigger and better content. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create bigger and better content. And then on the next podcast, I'll have a cool announcement. And you can see, if you're watching my YouTube video, my beard has gotten a little out of control. So I'll be talking about that on the next one. Hint, hint. But we have a company that sent us some cool stuff, and we're going to be talking about it on the next podcast briefly. So, all right, guys, thank you so much again for liking and sharing our video. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you for giving us a thumbs up on the video. And if you're over on Rumble or whatever, we appreciate you too. If you're just watching this on Facebook or whatever, or listening through our audio podcast, I can't thank you guys enough for all your support and all the great comments and everything. So thank you guys again, and we'll catch you on the next one.